I'm on the road. I'm out of the wild.
There you go.
And we are back. It's been another month, and I'm here with my friend David Bishop. David, it's great to see you.
Good to see you, Mark.
We've got a lot to talk about. You've just issued the numbers for February. I'd like to unpack what the numbers mean for, obviously, the regionals and the regional grocers and supermarkets. Let's do it within the context of what's happening in the economy, what's happening I guess from a customer's perspective, a grocery shopper's perspective, and let's also talk about the competition that regionals are experiencing. So let's go ahead. Why don't you give us the top line, the headline, and then the takeaway?
Yeah. So total eGrocery sales for the month of February versus a year ago fell over 10%. That was driven primarily by reduced spending on a per order basis or the average order value. And that was true across all three segments. Within some of the other key metrics that drive the top line, we did see some shifts that primarily benefited delivery during the month, which enabled it to be the only segment that actually posted positive sales growth year over year.
And this on the delivery side, is this not the second or the third month where you've seen continued investment from the 3PLs in incentivizing the use of their service?
Well, I think that's depth. I think the increased availability through the third-party marketplaces, without question, is a contributing factor that's assisting delivery in growing today. I think, though, if we were looking at the monthly active users for delivery, that surged almost 10% this year versus last year. But that's primarily because last year was a down year in the month of February for delivery, where that wasn't the case for pickup and ship to home. So in essence, delivery was benefiting this year with easier comps versus last year on the household basis. That really carried through the order frequency and order volume for that segment. But like I said just a minute ago, it still encountered a pullback in its average order values, albeit at a slightly lower rate than what pickup and ship to home slowed at in the month of February.
From an economic perspective, are you seeing any other trend that's impacting the February numbers?
Yeah, so February of 2024 is the final month that we're lapping the emergency pandemic allocations relative to SNAP. Those ended right around the end of February 2023. So obviously, that incremental spend or dollars for, a certain segment is not available this year. And we did look at that in our way in the numbers and can see that the lower income households have pulled back at a faster rate compared to those non-lower income households. So likely SNAP was contributing to that trend that we saw in the month of February. And again, when we looked at that by method, the pullback was more significant in delivery as compared to pickup, which makes sense because from a cost to serve standpoint, or cost to use, I should say, standpoint for the customer, obviously there are more incremental added costs associated with delivery than pickup. So that makes intuitive sense. But that, again, is some additional factors that will be weighing on February 24 results versus a year ago.
Next question. What are you seeing that's happening at the large retailers, the national retailers? You said they've experienced the same pullback, but not to the same extent.
If we look at Mass's monthly active user base did contract slightly, just over about 1%. In comparison, supermarkets actually grew slightly, or I should say in the mid-single digits. We need to keep in mind that, now Mass is starting to lap very strong comps from that persistent inflation that motivated more households to switch where they shopped when they shopped online. So, Walmart's just coming up on much harder comps compared to grocery. But, we can look at its average order values too. And the average spend in Mass for those active customers using delivery or pickup fell about 4%. Now, that was far less than what we documented that an active user in supermarket posted, which was nearly a 15% drop in its average order value. And we saw consistently across formats, I should add, similar trends. Not every format, but we did see in general this pullback in the amount of dollars spent per order during the month, whether it was in delivery or pickup, in hard discount, mass, or supermarkets.
What do you see Walmart doing right? What are they continuing still to do right?
First things first, when you open up their app, it's impossible to ignore that they're still aggressively promoting their Walmart Plus subscription. If you read it a little closer, which I was doing recently, about the benefits for signing up for Walmart Plus, obviously the first benefit is the waiving of the standard delivery fee on orders over $35, which essentially means any order at Walmart. Now, it doesn't remove the incremental fee associated with express or expedited delivery. They have either a $5 or a $10 incremental charge, depending on how quickly you want it. But the second item that they really tout now on the benefit is it's the same price online as in store. Now, that hasn't changed. I think they just amplified that focus to bring more attention to that, so that those customers who weigh cost considerations more heavily may be influenced to sign up for that subscription. I think the other component of that, Mark, is when you look at who primarily benefits with Walmart Plus, it's a customer who's interested in delivery. And not surprisingly, and as a result, I believe delivery is gaining more share of orders within mass and Walmart in particular. And it's growing much faster than their comparable pickup services, primarily because pickup had been their predominant method. Now they're investing to grow delivery. And again, they're investing in that delivery, which is primarily distributed by their first-party fleet of vehicles. And then their expedited or express service is primarily being delivered by, a gig worker, which I believe may be affiliated with DoorDash, but I can't recall. It could also be part of their Spark program.
Do you anticipate that delivery will actually outpace pickup at Walmart?
Well, I think right now, just in terms of growth rates, delivery is growing faster than pickup, but pickup is a much larger percentage of the overall business still. So to the extent that they move that way is probably conditioned on their abilities to manage those costs down further, which they've already done considerably. I think at some point, though, if they can't continue to drive the cost out of the system, then they'll start to throttle delivery, assuming there aren't other ways to create efficiencies within their fulfillment process.
So we've seen consistently that the acquisition, and it's not a game of acquisition anymore, it's about retention and incentivizing grocery customers to come back on a more frequent basis. What are you seeing, or what is it that the grocery retailers are not doing right as far as incentivizing repeat purchase?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of potential issues there. One could be that the experience just isn't up to the expectations that the customers now have. Now, keep in mind, we have approximately 1 out of every 3 grocery customers who use delivery and service from a regional grocer, for instance, this month, that also was using a mass retailer. And again, most notably, it'd be either Walmart and Target. And those 2 retailers, put aside for a moment, their respective performance, have really invested quite heavily into that experience, which is not just the ordering process, although that's incredibly important. It's also the distribution component of the experience, which is delivery to the home or delivery to the car. So I think one aspect could be that the experiences are trailing expectations at certain grocers. I think, another is, again, the fact that we haven't necessarily hit the right notes that resonate with the customers in terms of the role and value that online shopping can play. And I'm not saying that universally. I think someone like Target has really brought home the strength and the value associated with its pickup service. And it has some of the strongest raving fans out there that I can see, bar none, really, in terms of the U.S. But I think, when we still look at the others, it isn't as seamless of a process. So part of that can also weigh on the expectations as to, the value that may provide. Those are just two areas that I would hypothesize could be contributing to that, Mark. But some larger retailers may be leveraging their subscription program as a way to entice that additional transaction. Because if you think about the value prop, let's just take Walmart, because that was something that I just most recently looked at. If you were signing up for Walmart Plus and you said, okay, I'll do it on a month-to-month basis, that's $12.95. Now their delivery, their standard delivery fee is around $9.95. It may go lower for demand sensing, like $7.95. So the minute you go in and you subscribe for $12.95, that the payback happens when you move from 1 to 2 orders. So they could be looking at, how does the subscription actually attract households that are only making 1 order with us a month, and then converting them to 2 orders a month. Because once they get to the 2, they're playing with house money.
That's right.
The challenge,
That's right.
The challenge with a lot of regional grocers is, well, they don't believe they have the compelling offer to entice someone to sign up. And that may be true. But keep in mind that right now, Walmart isn't really highlighting that you can also get the streaming service. I think theirs is Paramount, whereas I think Instacart is Peacock.
Peacock,
So
yep.
The reason I bring that up is they're not necessarily leveraging that when they're promoting it to the customer. So when it really comes down to it, the customer's main benefit is avoiding the delivery charge, or potentially realizing, okay, I have the same price as if I shopped in the store.
Yeah.
The fuel discount is the third, or the tertiary benefit they're really highlighting. So I think when regional grocers look at this, they need to realize, if you really break it down, it's about how you can gain share. So you pay my monthly subscription fee, as long as you get to your second order, it's a win-win, right? Because I get the second order and you save on fees. But again, right now that's primarily leaning towards delivery. And there really isn't an incentive, if you are a Walmart customer today, to sign up for Plus if you're strictly pickup, because pickup is a no-fee service at Walmart. However, at regional grocers, they typically do have a fee.
They could.
So
they could do the same on pickup. Yep.
And just focus on pickup. Right? As opposed to delivery, because most of the delivery has some third-party component, either in the distribution leg or it's primarily ordered through the marketplace. So the point is thinking differently and not just simply copying what Walmart's doing, but looking at what makes sense to you. And if you're trying to draw people to your store, to leverage your service in some of the underdeveloped departments, then pickup is going to be better able or positioned to do that than delivery. So again, subscriptions may be an angle, although it's understandably a heavier lift, just simply because most regional retailers don't believe they have as compelling of an offer to make it as sticky as compared to Walmart. But just look, Target just announced. And if you just said, well, what's really different about Target's new membership program or subscription program versus what they had before? It's a lot of marketing, right? It's a lot of positioning. And I think that's what it comes down to, is really understanding what aligns with what your customers value from you, and then really playing that up.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's being creative with the insights that you're able to glean from understanding how your customers like to shop with you and what they find to be compelling about your value proposition. And I would dare say, convenience of online. You can play with that on the pickup side, and offering a subscription for a variable fee structure. And we've talked about that. But
you could
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to segue into the data conversation. But before we
Yeah.
do, I didn't want to cut you off.
Yeah, I think if you look at who's using pickup today, a lot of working parents, and if you also observe who's in the parking lot when they're picking up, it's generally that parent with a young kid in the back. So the emotional appeal is about simplifying someone's life, removing frustration
100%.
from a routine task that could be dreaded, especially if you have that kid in tow. So pickup allows you to do that on your time because you can stop by on the way home from work, just like you would have done before. But instead, you don't have to shop the entire store. You just pull up. So again, if we have some emotional appeals to the working parent and highlight some of the challenges or frustrations they have, that we may have a message that resonates more than simply saying save time and save money, right? That's a very functional appeal as opposed to an emotional one.
And again, I think the holy grail will be able to segment your customer base so you can make those targeted appeals, see what's common, what is not common, and then distribute a message that will resonate with those households that will find the pickup service more attractive, and or willing to pay a bit of a subscription fee to leverage it.
Yeah, the other thing, Mark, I was looking at today goes back to the pricing tactic relative to the fee structure. And today, predominantly, most retailers still follow a fee based on spend level. Over 35, your fee drops. Whereas now we're seeing more retailers emerging on pricing based on how quickly you want it. I mean, if you look at the expedited service that H-E-B offers or Walmart offers and index it off of their lowest delivery fee, for example, the expedited, the fastest express service for those two retailers, again, a regional retailer like H-E-B or a national discount retailer like Walmart, it's 2x over the base level. If you then go to the next tier of expedited service, it's about 1.5 times that base. And then the furthest out is your base level. And if you look at Walmart, Walmart will start to charge their base fee the next day. Someone like H-E-B, or the same day later on, like 5 hours, someone like H-E-B will have their base fee on the next day. So the two higher rates for expedited service, at least at the end of the day when I was looking at it, were 1.5 to 2 times higher than that base fee. You look at a national retailer like Kroger, who has who I would say their base fee is actually $3.95 in that comparison. But for the majority of people, they're going to pay $6.95. The only way you could get $3.95 through Kroger, which is their first party delivery, is you have to order 7 days in advance. Now that is extreme, and I'm not suggesting that is as good at shaping demand as maybe what someone like H-E-B is doing, which is, hey, you want to pay less, just shop with us tomorrow, right? That more likely will elicit the type of change behavior that benefits the retailer in their assembly process, so you can lower your pick and pack costs. So again, there are these subtle differences when you look at these retailers kind of compare on a comparison basis. But the reality is those little differences could be the difference between why someone's filled already today and others have plenty of spots available, right?
That's right.
It's just getting that much better of an understanding and an alignment with your customer needs and motivations. I mean, I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but by looking at what others are doing and asking, how that impacts it, clearly these are components of the picture that is why some propositions are stronger than others today.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. David, by the way, folks, if you want to dig into more on pricing strategies, and we definitely have a lot of that material on Mercatus.com that we've commissioned, with David previously to look at. So it's worth its weight in gold. David, pleasure as always. Can't wait to talk to you next month. Yeah, we'll dig into eGrocery for March.
Great. I appreciate it, Mark, and safe travels out there. Stay safe.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye-bye, folks.